Hi, this is Sanjay Yagnik and I'm a medical doctor by profession. Since last few days, we have been flooded by news about Sushant Singh Rajput, the Bollywood film star who was suffering from depression and who ended his life by committing suicide very recently. This very tragic incident has caused an uproar filled with very strong emotional reactions from people. While it is understandable that it has affected people very deeply, I think the source of people's outrage needs to be addressed because it is misguided and misplaced. Anyone could have been bullied and treated unfairly, but not everyone commits suicide. Sushant did, just because he was suffering from severe depression. His girlfriend stated that he had stopped taking his antidepressant medications lately. All the more reason for him to even think about suicide. She also confirmed that they had a huge fight 5 days before his suicide and that she had moved out of their house. Maybe that's what triggered it. Who knows? Before we even had time to process the very shocking news of his death, millions of stories began pouring out on how the nepotistic leaders of the film industry bullied Sushant and compelled him to commit suicide. Even though these are all mere speculation, because there was no suicide note found, nor does the family know anything about the causes for his depression. However, the media has started labeling it as a cold-blooded murder. Let us not fall prey to the media glorifying and sensationalizing a very tragic event like a suicide just for their own agenda. What they are trying to do is, by playing with our emotions, they are trying to increase the viewership. Some underdogs from Bollywood, like Kangana Ranaut, has also jumped onto the bandwagon and have started releasing videos filled with passionate hatred for the likes of Karan Johar, under the pretense that she is trying to get justice for Sushant, while in actuality, what she is doing is exploiting Sushant's death to further her own agenda of speaking up against nepotism. I'm not denying that nepotism exists in the film industry and it needs to be dealt with. But what I'm saying is, this isn't the right time for your activism against nepotism. All these things are taking away our attention from the actual issue, that there is lack of awareness about mental health issues in general and depression in particular. The need of the hour is to raise awareness that depression is not a sign of a weak mind. In layman terms, it is just imbalance of chemicals in our brain, which can be easily treated and even cured. But before that, it needs to be regarded as seriously as a heart disease or cancer. This is the time to allow for the understanding that people suffering from clinical depression, they did not talk themselves into depression because they are weak-minded, nor can they talk themselves out of depression by being strong. They need professional help. Period. And the help is just one click, one phone call away. They need not suffer in silence because they are ashamed. Another important point, the popular stories goes like that Sushant was cut off from Bollywood industry. He was not invited to the parties. There was conspiracy going on to not offer him any good movies, so and so forth. Let us assume for a moment that all that was true. Even then, by endorsing and propagating this sort of stories, aren't we normalizing suicide? Aren't we justifying suicide? Aren't we sending out a loud and clear message to the vulnerable individuals that it is okay to hang yourself from a ceiling fan if life hands you the short end of the stick? It is okay to jump from the 10th floor of a building if life doesn't go your way, if life treats you unfairly, unjustly. Is this the message we are trying to send out? If no, let us stop condemning the alleged human perpetrators. The police is investigating the case. And let us actually focus on the actual culprit, the act of suicide itself. Let us raise awareness that clinical depression can cause you to feel helpless, hopeless, worthless, and also can cause you to have suicide ideation. But a parallel fact is that psychotherapy and antidepressant medications can get you out of that dome and place you right in your original, happy, healthy, high functioning self. I don't know all these things just because I'm a doctor, but I have suffered depression myself for 4 years. And trust me, it is a very, very isolating experience. I volunteer to support individuals who have lost their loved ones by suicide. And from my experience with them, this is what I have learned. The actual victim is not the person who commits suicide, but the actual victim is the surviving family. The misery doesn't end with the individual committing suicide, but it multiplies manifold and is passed on to the surviving family members. The rest of the family members are not only doomed to grieve for the rest of their lives, but they are also destined to live with associated guilt as well. Guilt of not recognizing that he or she was suicidal, guilt of not being able to reach out to him when he needed them the most, guilt of not saying the right thing at the right time, and never being able to find out what went inside his head in last few days, hours, minutes and seconds leading to that horrific act of suicide. All this haunt them forever. Suicide is a social stigma. The family is looked down upon as a dysfunctional family. Also, they say the term committed suicide is very hurtful. Instead, the right politically correct word to use is died by suicide. Actually, it helps that to put that death into the same category as the other equally horrifying deaths. Sushant has 4 older sisters and a father. We can imagine how their lives are going to look like from now on. Death by suicide makes grieving very complicated. The complex emotions are very hard to process and come to terms with. Also, let us not lose the sight of the fact that our emotions are just momentary. But for them, the misery has just begun and it is going to get worse over time. We don't want to be the part of the problem. We don't want to be part of the solution. And how can we play that part? I think by leaving them alone, by not believing those emotional dramas and not spreading them, and by allowing the family to grieve and mourn in peace and waiting for the police investigation to unfold the actual triggers surrounding his death. Until then, all we can do is just pray for Sushant and his family. Thank you. Stay strong, stay safe.